Sergei Vladimirovich Surovikin, Russian Army General, early life and education. Surovikin was born in Novosibirsk, Soviet Union, on the 11th of October 1966. He graduated from the OMCC, Higher Combined Arms Command School, in 1987. Military career, ESE career. In military academy attendance, he was assigned to a Spetsnaz unit and served in the Soviet-Afghan War. August 1991. He was a captain and commander of the 1st Motor Rifle Battalion of the 15th Guards Motor Rifle Regiment, part of the 2nd Guards, Tamanskaya Motor Rifle Division. During the 1991 Soviet coup d'etat attempt in Moscow, Surovikin was ordered to send his battalion into the tunnel on the Garden Ring, where 3 anti-coup demonstrators were killed 20 after the defeat of the coup. Surovikin was arrested and held under investigation for 7 months. The charges were dropped on 10 December because ACK concluded that Surovikin was only following orders. He was promoted to the rank of major afterward. Surovikin attended the Frunze Military Academy. In September 1995, he was sentenced to a year of probation by the Moscow Garrison's military court for illegally selling weapons. The conviction was overturned after the investigation concluded that Surovikin had agreed to give a fellow student a pistol for use in a competition. Unaware of its intended purpose in 1995, he graduated from the Frunze Military Academy. Participated in the Tajikistani Civil War, where he commanded a motor rifle battalion. He then became Chief of Staff of the 92nd Motor Rifle Regiment, Chief of Staff and Commander of the 149th Guards Motor Rifle Regiment, and Chief of Staff of THINE 2002. He graduated from the Military Academy of the General Staff. He became commander of the 34th Motor Rifle Division at Yekaterinburg. Suicide of subordinate in March 2004. Surovikin was accused by Lieutenant Colonel Viktor Sibazov of beating him up for leaving his post to participate in elections as an observer in April. Division Deputy Commander for Armaments Colonel Andrei Stockel shot himself in the presence of Surovikin and the District Deputy Commander after being criticized by Surovikin. 19 in both cases. A military prosecutor found no evidence of guilt. From June 2004, he led the 42nd Guards Motor Rifle Division, permanently stationed in Chechnya to suppress the insurgency during the Second Chechen War. After 9 soldiers from the division died in the collapse of a farm building on the 21st of February 2005. An incident officially blamed on an insurgent-fired rocket grenade. Surovikin publicly promised to destroy 3 insurgents for every soldier killed. In spite of the policy that required insurgents to be handed over to authorities, investigation by independent news organization Novaya Gazeta revealed that the deaths were caused by the accidental discharge of a grenade launcher by drunk soldiers. An April interview with army newspaper Krasnaya Zvezda. Surovikin complained that rules of engagement, especially the requirement to detain suspected militants instead of shooting them, hindered counterinsurgency operations, and that Chechen fighters were exploiting Russian soldiers' hesitation to fire on insurgents near civilians. For his rhetoric, he gained a reputation in the press as a tough commander with an iron fist. In June, Surovikin ordered the Borostanovskaya cleansing operation to search for and detain insurgents, in which soldiers of the division's Vostok Battalion burned down houses, beat 87 civilians, killed 1 elderly man, and abducted 11 civilians. Surovikin categorically denied that the abductions took place, but the company commander responsible was convicted of abuse of power. Senior command roles. Returning from Chechnya, Surovikin was appointed deputy commander of the 20th Guards Combined Arms Army in Voronezh in November 2005, rising to serve as its chief of staff from May 2006 and army commander from April 2008. In November 2008, Surovikin became head of the main operational directorate of the General Staff. In January 2010, he became chief of staff of the Volga-Urals Military District, which soon became part of the Central Military District from November 2011. He headed the working group charged with creation of the military police. It was reported that Surovikin was tipped to head the military police after it was instituted, but the appointment did not materialize due to the intervention of the Russian Military Prosecutor's Office, according to the Russian media, which presented the situation as a turf conflict between the Defense Ministry and the military prosecutor's office. In October 2012, he became the chief of staff of the Eastern Military District. In October 2013, he was appointed commander of the district on the 13th of December. Surovikin was promoted to the rank of Colonel General Syrian Civil War on the 9th of June 2017. He was introduced to news media representatives as the commander of the Russian armed forces deployed to Syria. Reportedly, he took this position in March 2017. Surovikin left with Russian President Vladimir Putin, Sergei Shoigu, and Valery Gerasimov in 2018. In September 2017, Surovikin was cited by Russian media as a likely successor to Viktor Bondarev, who was on the 26th of September relieved of the position of the commander of the aerospace forces, according to a report published by RBK Group on the 2nd of November 2017 that cited an anonymous source in the M. Surovikin had been appointed commander of the aerospace forces despite his initial objections at the end of November 2017. The Russian Modi's Krasnaya Zvezda reported that Surovikin had been appointed commander of the aerospace forces by a presidential decree of the 22nd of November. TASS pointed out that Surovikin became the first combined arms commander in the history of Russia and the Soviet Union to be put in charge of the Russian or Soviet air forces on the 28th of December 2017. He was made a hero of the Russian Federation for his leadership of the group of forces in Syria under his command. A significant turning point in the fight against the Syrian opposition was achieved. The Syrian government regained over 50% control of Syria by the end of 2017 after a string of successful military campaigns. According to several Russian military commentators, it was Surovikin who turned the tide of the war. Surovikin took command of the contingent of Russian military forces in Syria, again from January to April 2019. Altogether, he commanded the Russian forces group in Syria for more than a year, which was longer than any other officer until November 2020. When Lieutenant General Alexander Chayko surpassed his duration in that post. In October 2020, Human Rights Watch report listed Surovikin as one of the commanders who may bear command responsibility for violations during the 2019 to 2020 offensive in Syria. In 2021, Surovikin was promoted to General of the Army, as one of only a handful of officers at that rank. It prompted speculation that he might be an eventual successor to Valery Gerasimov as Chief of the General Staff. Russian invasion of Ukraine in June 2022. It came to light that he was in command of the southern grouping of forces of the Russian armed forces in the southern Ukraine campaign on the 28th of September. He was awarded the title Hero of the Luhansk People's Republic. He said in an interview with Russian media that our opponent is a criminal regime, while we and the Ukrainians are one people and want the same thing: for Ukraine to be a country that's friendly to Russia and independent from the West. The quote, "For the enemies of Russia, the morning does not start with coffee," alludes to these strikes and is attributed to him, although it is most likely apocryphal. Surovikin is the eponym of the Surovikin Line, a line of trenches, minefields, and other fortifications which Russia built ahead of the 2023 Ukrainian counteroffensive, which began in June. Surovikin had the line built during his tenure as the overall theater commander immediately after a major Ukrainian counteroffensive operation in September 2022. It has been reported by the New York Times in October 2022. Amid a Ukrainian counteroffensive in the Kherson Oblast, American intelligence became aware that Surovikin had discussed the use of tactical nuclear weapons to prevent the Ukrainians from crossing the Dnieper River and reaching Crimea. This caused the U.S. intelligence community to reassess their estimated likelihood that Russia would use nuclear weapons in Ukraine from 5 to 10% to 50%. In the case that Russian lines in the south collapsed on the 8th of October, it was announced that Surovikin would be commanding all Russian forces in Ukraine, succeeding Colonel General Gennady Zhidko. It came to light on the 10th of October, according to sources close to the Kremlin, that Surovikin is a proponent of large-scale attacks by drone and missile on civilian and critical infrastructure, an instance of which occurred that day. On the 13th of October, Surovikin was profiled in Le Monde as a ruthless Russian general, while 2 days later, CNN reported that he was hated by some of his subordinates. On the 18th of October, Surovikin was reported as saying that the situation in the area of the special military operation can be described as tense. On the 20th of October, the Ukrainians had turned to energy rationing by the 22nd of October. Fortune was headlining the campaign by Russia launches massive attack on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. After failures on battlefield, after 1.5 million people were left with no electric utility on the 26th of October, Politico asked itself the question, can Putin's butcher of Syria save Russia from another rout? The 9th of November 2022, in a televised meeting with Russian Defense Minister Sergey Surovikin made a public statement on Russian media, along with other military staff.